Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. It's a tradition, at least for us. We're always grateful. I think Mike has, for the last 4 or 5 years, has kicked off our show for the year. Just what you want on your resume, Mike. But Mike Bobinski, Purdue's athletic director, joins us. And it is the busiest of times. It's been the busiest of times, I think, in your world. I don't know, probably since you took the job. But it is an exciting time, and I want to, just that glow of starting a football season is something that if you're a Purdue fan, if you're a Purdue grad, if you're anything associated with athletics, there's despite all the challenges, it is a special thing.
It is, and there's a definite buzz and excitement, and just having watched Coach Odom and his staff work over these last 8 months now, with a real sense of purpose and intensity towards this opening weekend. I'm anxious to see it come to life here on Saturday, and I'm very excited to see what will happen. I think they've worked so hard. Practices have been so intense and so demanding. I feel like the games will be like, whew, this is not so bad after the way practices have been. But I think that's been very intentional. There's been a lot of stress put on the system to try and find out who can and who can't, and we'll know even more after we play a couple games here.
I don't know what the number is for you. Is this 43 years? Is it way in college athletics administration? Am I counting correct?
Started in '84, so I'm 41, going on 42.
Oh, so, there you go. So now in a year to grow.
Whatever it is, it's a long time.
Managing change. That is the thing that you talk about from an administrative level. There's MBA programs talk about it. You try to figure that out. You've had to be an expert in that, and not only in the football program, but trying to keep an even keel in a time of turbulence. How has that continued to evolve for you? Maybe when you go home and see Jeannie, it's a different conversation. But when you deal with trying to lead a group, what's that been like?
Yeah, Alan, I think I've learned, by experience over a number of years, that it's really important when you're in the job that I'm in, that you don't react to every single thing, and you don't show a lot of emotional ups and downs to the people that are around you, because that's not helpful at all. Yeah. I think change is an absolute reality in our world, in our entire society, but in college athletics for sure. The pace of change has so accelerated really during my time here at Purdue. Now this is year 10 at Purdue. It's probably the most turbulent 10 years of my entire 40 plus years in college athletics. But you have to, you can't fight it. You have to embrace it. You have to find ways through it that can advantage your program, and give you a chance to be competitive at the very highest level, and keeping your wits about you and staying level through all that is really important. And so and I'm fortunate we've got a great team of people that I think follow that same general approach. We're all trying to be strategic and thoughtful as to how we move through all this. And I would tell you that I think we were as well prepared as anybody for the new world that launched on July 1. If you ask the folks in the Big Ten, I think they would say that of the 18 schools in the Big Ten, Purdue is in the top 10%, if not higher, as to who was buttoned up the best in terms of being ready to get into this new reality.
Mitch Daniels and the board of trustees, when you were in that interview process, you didn't have revenue shares on they weren't asking you about that in that world. Talk about that, because we talked a couple of weeks ago about just the fact that you guys were ready. And I know a couple of folks on the men's basketball side just said, yes, it's a huge change, but we put guardrails and plans into something that we felt like, we being Purdue, that it was an inevitability. You embraced it and you dealt with it. I mean, that process has gone on for a while, though.
It has. We were preparing literally for close to a year. We presumed that settlement was going to stick together pretty much as it was originally proposed, and then that's exactly how it ultimately rolled out. So thankfully our planning was not for nothing, but I was really, really grateful for the two sports that are the most affected by the revenue share world are men's basketball and football. I mean, that's that's no secret, and that's the way it is everywhere. And I would tell you that I think in both cases, in both cases, I think we have been really, really smart about how we've approached that world, how decisions have been made about allocation and strategy going forward. It hasn't been sort of a short-term view. It's been a longer, hey, let's not think about just year one, but let's think about years 2 and 3, and how do we set ourselves up with a system that can sustain itself and not run into a brick wall here because we've overcommitted in year 1, and now, oh my gosh, what do we do now? We don't have any flexibility. So Brandon Lee and Ethan Baxter, and along with Coach Odom in football, I don't know we could have done it better in terms of how they flipped the roster and made decisions in terms of revenue share allocations. Again, with an eye towards the next year and the next transfer opportunities and all of that, knowing that inevitably there's going to be some turnover. And the same thing on the men's basketball side. Elliot and Matt, really tag teamed this in conjunction with Tanner Ball, who's our sort of overall department contract and resource person. They put together a plan that I think is really sound. And what I can say with complete certainty, I don't think there's a single athlete in our football or men's basketball programs. In fact, I'm pretty certain that are here because we just bought them. We paid them the most money. We are still finding the young people that are in for the entire Purdue experience, that are here for the right reasons. And yeah, we're participating in revenue share at the fullest level. We're not taking a backseat to anybody, because that's what it takes to compete these days. But we are still looking for those young people that really want the whole Purdue experience, and that's ultimately going to be our path to success, in my opinion.
Yeah, Alan Karpick here with Mike Bobinski, Purdue Athletic Director. When you look at that, for someone tuning in or not knowing, we're so into this world that we think everybody knows how this works. $20.5 million or approximately that, whatever that figure is. Give us the 1 minute elevator speech of how that's getting paid for, which has always been a challenge, but also that role as it pertains to also NIL, a word that a lot of people have heard.
Sure. So a couple of things. So the actual revenue share program runs through the university. It is funded by us here in athletics in partnership with the broader university, and that is a brand new thing for us here at Purdue, where the leadership, President Chang, our board, was gracious enough, and Chris Rule, our CFO, was absolutely part of all that. Basically saying, hey, it's important to Purdue that we compete, and we continue to compete at the highest level. College athletics matters in terms of image and brand, and representing all the things that Purdue is trying to be excellent at. Why we can't come up short in athletics. So they have we've struck an arrangement where we will be able to participate at the full revenue share cap every year. If we're unable in athletics to generate all the revenue dollars that we need to be able to fund that, the university will step in and help us get to that full revenue share cap every year. And that's it's not a gift. It's not we can't go to sleep over here. We need to continue to push hard from a revenue perspective. That's our responsibility, whether it be fundraising and philanthropic gifts, or ticket sales and merchandise and concession, all the things that go into our revenue picture. We need to continue to be really strong in all that. But it's great to know that we're sort of in this together with the university, and that's a really, really good thing. So we are at the full $20.5 million rev share cap for this year. We've allocated it, I think, intelligently. We've like lots of people, we have made sure that football and men's basketball gets taken care of in a way that allows them to compete in the worlds that they live in. We are also revenue sharing with our women's basketball and volleyball programs. And then we did something a little different. We kept a sort of an unallocated pot of revenue share dollars, not a massive amount, but enough that we can then use for elite athletes in certain programs. So the coaches in those programs can come and say, hey, we've got a young person here that is a program changer, or somebody that we either can't afford not to get, or we can't afford to lose. So they can then apply for some of that unallocated revenue share to help assist with those kind of situations. And I think it's been really positive. We can point to a couple of circumstances where, absent that, we probably would have not had young people in our rosters in certain sports that are going to really help us this year and be sort of national level performers. And I think it's a good thing. And we'll look to continue that as we go down the road. And you mentioned NIL. NIL has been so many things have been called NIL over the last
Yeah.
4 years, and honest to God, it drives me absolutely nuts to see how misused that term has been. Everything gets referred to as NIL.
Yeah.
Well, that's not everything is not NIL, but
Yeah.
but what is intended to be the case going forward is that NIL can still exist, but it needs to be real NIL, the way it was intended to be from day one, which means that it's with an organization that has a valid business purpose and that it falls within a reasonable range of compensation. It's not just buckets of money for nothing, and which really is just pay for play, hidden under the guise of NIL, which is what has happened in the last couple of years. That is prohibited by the terms of the settlement. So it behooves us to source real NIL deals for our athletes, those that have real market value and brand value, endorsement value, should have those opportunities. So we are literally just hired someone to do that all day, every day, in conjunction with Purdue Sports Properties, who's doing that on our behalf and on behalf of our athletes all day, every day. So we'll have several entities working towards developing those types of opportunities to make sure that our student athletes have the same opportunities available to them on top of the revenue share that their counterparts do at other universities. So we feel like don't know what that will look like as we go down the road, but we're gonna work hard as we possibly can to make sure that we're not deferring to anybody when it comes to that.
And another thing that is 100% different than what it was when you took this job, but you talk about that and what the role is with respect to being able to, how much can you help on the NIL side, if I'm saying it correctly, in terms of partnering with individuals and corporations or whoever that would do it? What is the process there? And from a I don't know if it's the right term, but the NCAA or rules standpoint, how does that work?
Sure. We can go right up until the limit of matchmaking, really, Alan. We can source the deals. We can put the parties together. What needs to happen, though, is payment needs to come from a third party directly to the student athlete. If it comes through the university, it then becomes part of your revenue share cap. It counts against your cap. So that doesn't behoove us to do that, because then that just reduces your cap availability. So it is important that we strike deals that establish a direct relationship between the sponsoring or endorsing entity and our student athletes. And we have, more than 6 figures worth of those deals that have already passed through the clearinghouse and been approved, and all of that that touch a number of our athletes. So there is activity already. We'd like to see that continue to grow as time goes by.
That clearinghouse, is that and again, it's early, I understand. Yeah. Is it do you feel confident that's going to be a relatively seamless process, or is there a definition of seamless anymore?
Well, it's not that yet. I mean, I think that's a widely held and an accurate assessment. It is not there to where we believe it should be and can be in terms of efficiency, turnaround time, clarity. All of that is, and part of the reason for that is, the settlement didn't get approved until June the 6th.
Yeah.
It launched on July the 1st. It was supposed to be, we thought it might get approved in April. Well,
didn't.
It got pushed and pushed and pushed. And so what happened was there was, the clearinghouse and the College Sports Commission, all those entities really couldn't officially launch until the settlement was approved. There was no standing for them to be anything until the settlement was approved. So we really had to, we are really building the plane as we're flying it here in some ways, which is far less than ideal. But I do believe that, everybody understands what the intent is. There needs to be more staff. There needs to be more everything around this program. But I think it can work. And honestly, I believe it needs to work in order for the long-term sustainability of college athletics.
That's one of our favorite terms these days, is building the plane while it's in the air. That's always a
bad idea. It's a bad idea.
Bad idea. All right. And obviously a relatively new commissioner in the Big Ten, in the wonderful world of conferences and its role down the road, but also and it's a two-part question. What do you see with, the role of the conference in the Big Ten? Obviously, SEC, there's been a lot of talk about that. Mm-hmm. But then also the role of being able to, do they dictate how much you have to spend on football, or is that totally your call? Or do you compare notes with other schools? I mean, there's every school is a little bit different, but how does that work?
Well, they do not dictate. So that is your job. answer one is there's no mandate from the conference or elsewhere to say you must do this. And there's also a prohibition against comparing notes very closely because the settlement was a result of antitrust lawsuits. So we're all we are advised regularly by general counsel at the conference level and elsewhere to, be really careful about what you talk about and how much detail you share with others. So the reality is we do talk about the need for, football needs to be nationally relevant across the Big Ten. In order for that to be the case, there's got to be an investment that supports that type of objectives. Same thing with men's basketball, same thing with other programs. So we all were left to make our local decisions. I would guess that if you were able to analyze all the data, that there'd be a relatively tight correlation between who's done what for what programs with some local uniqueness. You look at Penn State wrestling, for instance. I'm sure they probably were able to or needed to support some revenue share dollars towards Penn State wrestling because they win the national championship, basically every year, and they don't want that to go away. So there are those opportunities and pockets of excellence that people need to support. But in general, I think we're all within a pretty close standard deviation from what we've invested in football for sure.
Yeah, that's again another. It's all a little bit of a moving target and subject to some level of evaluation and change, I'm sure. Okay, men's basketball. Go ahead.
One other thing, you mentioned the conference and commission.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will tell you this. We joke with him. He's become the Darth Vader of athletics, and only because he's like the only entity out there generating ideas, generating concepts, and is taking all the bullets, which is unfair. He is working incredibly hard on behalf of, first and foremost, the Big Ten. That is his number one thing, but also trying to put things forward that he believes and that we believe. We talk about them, collectively before he advances anything that he thinks are good for the overall entity of college athletics. And I really appreciate Tony's work. I think he's the right guy at the right time for us in this league, and is working on all sorts of things that will help continue to position the Big Ten as the premier conference in the country going forward.
Well, it's funny when he started talking about 24 or 28 teams in the college football playoff, he didn't say this is a mandate. He said it's an idea.
Exactly.
It's an idea.
Right.
I don't know. It might make some sense. There might be smarter minds might be able to figure out, a way to get there and make that work best for everybody. Who's to say at this point in time? All right. I do want to ask about men's basketball, and you talk about a program that Matt Painter's as good as it gets, and just celebrated his 55th birthday this week. So he's a youngster, but again, you have to manage. I don't know that you have to manage expectations, but this is a program that's got, all the pieces are there. Mm-hmm. You've got great from even our dealings with them, they couldn't be better people. And that's a good thing from a team and coaching staff. But how do you, and I know you're not, my guess is you're not having to counsel Matt and a whole lot about that, but you've seen this before. You've been the chair of the men's basketball committee. This is what it's all about, and Purdue has an opportunity this year. What do you in the back of your mind? What do you see upcoming with this team, and how Matt will handle things down the road?
I think. Everything you said is completely accurate, Alan. We do have an opportunity, and I think there are probably at the beginning of any year lots of teams that think they have an opportunity. Probably some that come out of nowhere and find themselves in that situation. But clearly, we do have the opportunity to have a very special season. Lots of things have to happen in order for that to come to life here. It doesn't happen without playing every game and staying healthy and keeping the locker room right and all of that. And that's, I think, Matt is so good at those types of things. He's so aware of how he assembles his roster and what the makeup of his team is year in and year out. And I can tell you, just watching the workouts and even practice earlier this week and later on today, there'll be some. The competition is incredible. That's there's no way that's anything but a great thing. The intensity in practice, the competition for minutes and roles and all of that is real, and it's intense. And I don't think there's any way that you don't get better individually and collectively when you've got that type of an environment day in and day out. And I think everybody, the players all realize they're human. They realize, hey, we have a chance, but they also realize, and Matt is really good at managing, not getting ahead of yourself, in terms of, hey, we still have to work our way through the entire process. You all have to understand what it takes to be able to play our system, to get better defensively, to do all the things that we need to do to really be an elite team over the course of the year. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. We're probably not going to shut everybody out like everybody thinks is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it will and should be a very entertaining and enjoyable season. I'm really anxious. There's definitely you can feel a vibe in the practice gym where, I mean, there's a sense of purpose when they take the court. They're not going through the motions. I mean, it's real. It is on every day, and that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, I peeked my head in on Wednesday afternoon and watched them just in pickup games, and they weren't ready to fight, but they weren't. Nobody likes to lose.
No.
That's a good thing from that. So it's funny on coaching. Coaching can, you think when you have talent in a roster that works, that life gets easier, it may get harder. For Matt Painter and company, just to be able to manage this and work his way through the season. But if you're a Purdue fan, I think you've got the right guy to get that done. Mike, enjoy, I guess, to be the right word, embrace the start of this football season.
Absolutely.
Might as well. It is going to be fun to see the Ross-Ade Stadium. I think I was over there on Wednesday also, and that turf is
looks great, doesn't
glimmering, isn't it? And
beautiful.
Ready for, and I think we're going to have a cool weather day on Saturday, so that'll be good. Good home schedule. The first 3 weeks will be a lot of fun in Ross-Ade Stadium. Thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate it. Always insightful, and like I said, good luck at the start of this season.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate you having me once again. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank Mike Bobinski, and we appreciate his time. And, of course, Mark Herman and Tom Dienhart joined us as well. Fun show today. And thanks also to our sponsor, State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com, and to XXX on the Hill, but on the level, a Purdue tradition since 1929. Kerry and Greg Erzman have really done, and their crew have done a great job. It's still a great place to go, and it's hard to get in there sometimes on weekends, but they do their best to accommodate you, and it is an experience like no other when you go to restaurants on Purdue's campus. So we'll be back next week, and that will be prior to the Purdue Southern Illinois game. Tim Newton will be joining us, and we'll have a full show and look forward to that as well. So thanks to the good folks at WLFI, Chris Collar, and all the folks there for helping make this happen. And again, thanks to our sponsors and our guests, and we'll see you next week on Gold and Black Live.